With Big 12 play right around the corner, we thought we would bring somebody in that knows the mostest about the Kansas State Wildcats. John Kurtz is going to be joining Jordan and myself after the intro on this episode of Hoops from the Hills. What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul, and you've landed yourself at Hoops from the Hills. I've got a friend with me today since he's out right now. We'll just let him tell the story whenever he's ready. But I've got a good friend of mine that's joining me today, Jorden from the Country Roads webcast. How we doing today, Jorden?
I'm doing great, man. Excited to talk about some Mountaineer basketball a little bit, learn a little bit more about the Wildcats, and just hoping I can fill Kuz's shoes admirably. I know that those are big shoes to fill, but I'm here to try and do it, hopefully, and hopefully can give you guys some good basketball content here. Happy to be here on Hoops from the Hills.
All right, and that's not all. We've got the man, like I said, that knows the most about the Wildcats. That would be John Kurtz. How we doing, John?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm doing good. How are you?
A little birdie told me you're heading to the Sugar Bowl to watch the Cats beat some Bama ass. Is that true or what?
Well, hopefully I can confirm the second part. I can definitely confirm the first part. I am en route to New Orleans right now. I don't know where we at? Arkansas, somewhere.
Little Rock.
Somewhere in Arkansas, just past Little Rock, Arkansas. At this point on the way there. So yeah, looking forward to that. Should get in like late afternoon today and hit the game tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes, man.
Well, the entire Big 12 world is pulling for you guys, and we need it with the Big 12 record as shallow as it is right now on the losing end. But we all know the two games that can tighten that narrative up more than any two other are yours, and to an even greater extent TCU. So hopefully you guys both can get some W's. But we're here to talk about basketball. We're really excited. Both teams are really good so far this year. Kansas State coming in with 11 wins, 1 defeat. Hasn't played the strength of schedule that West Virginia has. But to me, when I look and I give it an eye test, the Cats are dunking on people. I mean, you guys have got a really athletic team with a really good point guard, Noel. You've got a couple 6'10" guys that can score it. What is it about this year's Cats and new head coach Jerome Tang that really gets you excited?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head pretty well there. They're so much more athletic than they were. I mean, he re-recruited basically an entire roster. There's only two guys from last year's team, Noel being one, then Ish Massoud, who's not been playing a whole lot, quite frankly. He played a lot last year. He has not played much this year, which I think is a good sign about where the roster is this year compared to last. Now, they don't have Nigel Pack, who is an elite scorer, but they've replaced him with Keontae Johnson, who's one of the best stories in college basketball, former SEC preseason player of the year. Was a tremendous player at Florida, had the heart condition where he collapsed on the court, and has made his comeback, and now is scoring at almost 20 a game. Last I looked, it was like 18 and 7. I mean, the guy's just been a monster, and has really helped pick up the scoring slack. And then with that, just a ton of athleticism on the roster. Naquan Tomlin is going to be a guy you need to watch out for. All the highlights you've seen of people dunking on opponents has mostly been him. I mean, he's crazy. He is 6'10", can handle the ball, can shoot. It's just a matter of consistency right now. But man, he puts it all together. That's the guy that's going to play in the NBA, no doubt. So I think you have a couple of NBA players potentially on this roster, Keontae Johnson and Naquan Tomlin. It's just been a matter of everything coming together. And there's been some inconsistency this year, but to really answer the question about what Jerome Tang's brought that's exciting is, I mean, one, mainly recruiting and culture. Like he's just totally changed the culture. He's completely embraced the fan base, whereas Bruce Weber won a couple of Big 12 titles at K-State, but over his time there, half the fans hated him the entire time. I mean, I spent a lot of time not really being thrilled with him. Just a lot. It's a long story. He was not Frank Martin, total different kind of guy. People were mad that Frank got run out of town. There were a lot of those things that kind of set the seeds for 10 years worth of infighting within the fan base. So he's totally unified everything, energized everybody. He's got K-State's best recruiting class in at least a decade coming in next year. That people are very excited about, so he's already making a huge impact on the recruiting trail. So I just think the future is really, really bright. His coaching staff is great. They got Jorden Malagy from Texas staff, got him away from Chris Beard. to come there. Tareem Dowling, I think, is a future star also that's on that coaching staff right now. So he's just really beefed up K-State staff, made the program much more in line with what a program should be in 2022 or 2023. We're almost there. So I think the future's really bright, and everybody just kind of views this year as like, hey, go get what you can. If you can somehow make the NCAA tournament, which I think they'll probably be a bubble team, then that's just gravy because the rest of the future looks pretty bright right now.
Yeah, speaking of Tomlin, I saw he absolutely dominated against Radford in, I think it was the last game you guys played. He had 26 points. And this is a guy that's had a couple goose eggs for you guys this year. When I was looking through the schedule and seeing who popped in certain games and against Power 5 competition and not against Power 5 competition, and I saw Tomlin starting to come on. And then I look at last week's game, he scored 26 points. I'm like, oh, no. Here's another guy that's coming on for Jerome Tang. Another guy for Noel to get the ball to. Jorden, for those that are watching this right now that may not know anything about the West Virginia side of things, tell everybody watching what Joe Toussaint, Kedrian Johnson bring to the table as far as a defensive front that maybe combat somebody like Noel that's bringing the ball down the court.
Yeah, I think with both those two guys, you get something that West Virginia has lacked the past couple of seasons, really, and that's good on-ball defense. We've heard Huggins talk about the past couple of seasons, giving up straight-line drives is really what has hurt West Virginia. And I think when you see those two guys, especially in those moments where we get to see them two on the court together, which is kind of few and far between because Huggins is kind of scared to get them both into foul trouble because they're both such a necessity to what West Virginia does. Toussaint, such a good spark off the bench, really provides the majority of West Virginia's bench scoring. But I think in regards to that, they're going to pressure him. They're going to get up in the grill. They're going to do tough pressure man-to-man defense and hopefully try and frustrate him a little bit, get him off of his game, because both those two guys are very well equipped to do that. And we've seen them do that at times this season. And both of them have done a good job of forcing turnovers as well, which West Virginia as a team has done. So you got to hope that Kedrian Johnson and Joe Toussaint or some combination of the two is able to slow down that ball handler.
And before we get any further, guys, John, do you mind telling everybody where they can find you, give them some social media handles, things like that?
Yeah, for sure. On Twitter, easy place to find me, at JLKurtz, JLKURTZ. You can also check out the YouTube channel, just my name, John Kurtz. If you want that, that's all Big 12 specific content, really good Big 12 community that we have going on there. And then also, if you want K-State specific stuff, free my podcast, free MAW, wherever it is that you find podcasts, Spotify, Apple, etc. Google, we're all over.
And Jorden, real quick, if you care to tell everybody where they can find you, I really appreciate you coming in for Coos today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be a guest here on Hoops from the Hills. Been following you guys since the inception of the show here. Of course, I followed you guys individually and love both your channels on the football side. So I was glad to see you guys team up here for some Mountaineer basketball coverage and happy to be on it. But you guys can find me on YouTube as well, covering West Virginia sports there at Country Roads Webcast on YouTube and on any podcast platforms as well.
Appreciate that. So, John, we know the history. You know the history as well as we do, having had Coach Huggins there at K-State for a year. You know what he demands. You know what he coaches and instills into his players. Has Kansas State saw a team that's going to come at them with as much physicality, intensity, all the things that a Huggins coach team brings? Have the Cats seen anything like that yet this year?
No, I don't think so. And I mean, it's totally a fair point. Like the schedule, purposely so, was fairly light in the non-con. Now, they beat LSU, which was a crazy comeback win out of the tournament, which is looking better and better. LSU had a nice win this week that's helping out there. K-State back Nebraska, and I mean, stop at that if you will, but Nebraska's actually putting together a pretty nice resume, and they spanked Iowa yesterday. So, they have a couple of halfway decent wins there. Nevada is another one from earlier in the tournament that is not a bad win for K-State. And then they lost to Butler in a game where they got really dominated by a physical big man inside and just did not play very well. They kind of hit a wall at that point in the season, not playing very well. But I don't think Butler is a world beater by any stretch of the imagination. So, no, K-State definitely has not. And I've got all the respect in the world for Bob Huggins. I think I've told you this before, Paul, but just for anybody out there that's watching, Bob Huggins will forever be one of my favorite coaches and figures in college basketball for what he did to K-State hoops. just totally jump-started it after a decade and a half of just wandering in the abyss. Terrible basketball. Huggins came in 1 year like lightning, man. Just brought with him not only Michael Beasley, Bill Walker, but Frank Martin, who kept that K-State program going. So I love everything about the guy, and I will always be eternally grateful to him for what he did there. So I've got a bunch of respect for his team, how he's playing, and frankly, it's been cool to watch this year the resurgence of West Virginia when I think a lot of people felt like, hey, maybe this is kind of the end of it for Huggins, and it's slipping away. So, look, I hope the guy coaches forever. I'll be a fan of his forever, and would love to see him continue to come around. But yeah, this will be the biggest test of the year by far for K-State. And the other thing is, I wonder what the crowd is actually going to be like, because there are going to be so many people, 25, 30,000, I would think, down here at the Sugar Bowl going on the same day. So there's been a huge push that Tang has been all about trying to weaponize people to give their tickets to other fans that can go attend. So we'll see what that's going to be like. I think it would be an awesome, awesome crowd. If not for the Sugar Bowl, I'm a little iffy on that, which is going to make the challenge a little tougher, I think, against the Mountaineers.
Yeah. Jorden, give us some matchups to look at. Who do you think on the West Virginia side of things who do you think is going to show up in this game? Who do you think is going to show out?
Well, I think you got to hope that Trey Mitchell and Eric Stevenson have good games for the Mountaineers, scoring wise to show up. But as far as, John raising my concern level a little bit, I know I heard him mention a 6'10" player that can handle the basketball and stretch the floor a little bit. So I think that's definitely a matchup to watch for West Virginia. We've seen them struggle in ball screens in those type of situations. That was kind of what happened against Xavier, Purdue as well. They pull Jimmy Bell out there onto the perimeter, get him in some of those high ball screen situations, and he's kind of struggled in that throughout the season. When he's been pulled away from the basket, he's more of a traditional back to the basket, low post type of big man. So definitely that's something I'm looking out for in this game, and I'm a little concerned about having heard that now, but I definitely think West Virginia is going to have to pick up some of the slack on the offensive end, because it sounds like Kansas State's going to be pretty capable of scoring as well.
And on that point, West Virginia, one of the highest offensive efficiency teams in the country right now. The NET and the KenPom both love the Mountaineers this year. NET has them in the top 10. KenPom has inside the top 20 now. I'll be interested to see. In my opinion, I think K-State is the second best team we've played this year. This is my opinion. I think by the end of things, K-State's going to be a 22 to 25 win basketball team. That's my opinion. I went and watched 3 or 4 of their games in preparation for this. I am highly impressed with the Wildcats. Highly impressed. And what Jerome Tang he's done, he's brought some of that Baylor flavor with him. They play tough defense now. Couldn't always say that under Bruce Weber, even though I know he coached it. Didn't always get it. Had a lot of individual high-scoring talents while he was there. You mentioned Nigel Hayes, guys like that. But I'll tell you, I'm really impressed with the Wildcats. It'll be interesting to see what happens in this game. Jorden, give us a prediction for the game. Who do you think is going to win the game?
Oh man, putting me on the hot seat here. I think it's going to be a close one. It's one that can swing either way. Being at home is obviously going to be an advantage, but like John said, who knows how packed the stadium will be. But I'm sure there will be some people that will certainly show up there to want to watch this Big 12 matchup here. But ultimately, I guess I'm going to have to be a homer and say that the Mountaineers pull it out. But I think it's going to be a close one, probably less than a 5-point victory margin.
All right, and John, I'm coming for you next, man. So obviously you're heading to watch the Cats in a football game right now. You're pumped for that. Somewhere off, the Mountaineers and the Wildcats are going to be playing. I'm sure it's going to be on your radar. Give us a score prediction if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's going to be, man. I'm not optimistic about any bars around there pumping ESPN Plus in for us to watch the game, but I'll have it up on my phone for sure. I think it would be a real homer pick right now to pick K-State to win. I'm going to need to see them actually break through and beat a team of this caliber. I think before I will totally believe it. They're going to have to do some of it if they want to make the NCAA tournament. Obviously, roundabout way to say I would see West Virginia 71-66, something like that. I mean, I think it'll be close. I think K-State will be competitive. It does feel like K-State's kind of turned a corner from the mid-non-con lull that they hit, where it started to look like this team might really struggle. But the big thing is until they really consistently can get a third scorer and somebody reliable on offense outside of Tomlin, or excuse me, outside of Noel and Keontae Johnson, I'm going to need to see a little bit more. I need to see more of Tomlin's, 26-point sort of outburst consistently, or maybe a more 14 to 16-point outburst consistently out of him before I really, really buy it. So I'm going to take West Virginia by around 5. So hope I'm wrong, but I think the Mountaineers have earned enough respect to get them on there right now.
If a third, just a quick extra question, if a third scorer were going to arise for the Cats, would it be Carter? Would it be Sills? Who is the guy that they're looking at to be that guy?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would be Tomlin, but I think outside of that, like one guy who's been key at points and has played some really nice games has been David Gasson, who's a big. You'll see him like playing the 5, but he's kind of a little more like a finesse 5. He's not what you would think of as like a big brute inside. I mean, he's fairly skilled, and he has really started to play better the last couple of weeks. If it's in a backcourt, I mean, one guy that they would really love to get more consistent is Desi Sills. Desi Sills he came in very late, like after practice had already started by the time he even got to campus and showed up. So I think that's been a part of some of the slow start there, but he's been fairly inconsistent as a guard. But I think he has that ability, and they could really use that in the backcourt too. So I think between Tomlin, Gasson, and Stills, they're going to have to get it from there. The problem is, like, outside of those guys and then the two I already mentioned, they're just not very deep. They don't have a whole lot. It's going to be heavily reliant on those guys, which is another reason I think West Virginia can kind of wear K-State down a little bit towards the end of this game, because K-State's kind of a 6-man operation right now.
Well, that's a really good point, because West Virginia, I mean, have the potential to go 11, 12 deep. We play almost the entirety of the team. There's like 1 or 2 guys that don't play. Including Jose Perez, who, I don't know if you've heard the news, but Jose Perez was denied a waiver, even though the 2 teammates that transferred with him are now playing. They just got approved as well, but for some reason, Manhattan fought this thing, and for some reason doesn't want Perez, who was the preseason player of the year in that conference, to play. He's a guy that we could really use, but if it gets into a battle of the benches, I definitely do favor the Mountaineers. My prediction for the game is I do think West Virginia wins, but I think K-State is going to be such a good basketball team by the end of the year, even with the 6-man rotation, especially if they can figure out the 7 and 8 spots. Really good basketball team, because the starting 5 is as good as I've seen. I've only watched a couple of programs so far just in research, but such a good basketball team, got really good potential, and Jerome Tang, a great coach. So, but I think West Virginia wins by 5, 70-65. I think it's going to be a Big 12 opener. Teams are going to be filling each other out. It's probably going to, if nobody shows up to the game, it could be one of those games where both teams maybe get lulled to sleep a little bit, with everybody being at the K-State football game. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. I saw somebody online trying to get ticket sales ramped up. Hopefully that happens. I mean, we want to see a good atmosphere and a good test for our team as well as for you. So, John, man, can't thank you enough for doing this. I know we tried to schedule it a couple different times, and you've been sick. So I appreciate you as you recover and while you're on the road at the same time for doing this, man. It really means a lot to Coos and I. Unfortunately, Coos couldn't be here. He wanted to be here. He said to give you his best. So we're really grateful that you did this, man. As you know, we're big, huge fans of you and your show and what you've done for the Big 12.
Hey, I appreciate the kind words. As always, my friend. And echo that, man. I love Coos. Hope he's doing well. Send him my best as well. And thanks for being patient with me. I know, with the sickness, the travel, there's been a lot going on here. So happy to hop on with you guys for sure. No
problem at all, man. All right, guys, that's John Kurtz. Get over there, subscribe, get on Twitter, look him up, search that thing out, hit the follow button. Do the same for my friend Jorden at Country Roads Webcast. Both of these guys do excellent work in their respective fields, whether that be basketball, football, or both. I think they both do both. John, like we said, John does all the Big 12. Jorden does mostly West Virginia stuff and some outside news. So really, really thankful for you guys coming on and helping me out today.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Jordan, is there any parting words you have or anything else you want to mention, or are you good to go?
I think we pretty much covered it pretty in depth. Just thankful to get to join you guys, and thankful to get to speak to you as well, John. Learn a little bit more about the Wildcats. And I guess the only thing left to say for me is let's go Mountaineers.
And you know what? Since Coos is injured right now, I'll take this thing out with his signature Q Country Roads.